Welcome to News9 Live and you are watching On Point, and in this edition we will discuss the decision taken by the government of Uttar Pradesh on making nameplates mandatory on the Kanwar route all across the state. Why has this been done? It comes in the middle of the political row which was sparked by the Muzaffarpur Police order mandating display of names on eateries along the Kanwar route. People felt that, well, it's one-off thing which must have happened, but then it gets extended. Undeterred by criticism, Yogi government mandated it across the entire state. Now this has led to a lot of political reactions. Is it correct, legal, legit, ethical, lawful, or just practical? Something to do with the religious sentiments which needs to be respected. But before that, let me take you through the bite of Member of Parliament Asaduddin Owaisi.
ये सरासर संविधान के आर्टिकल 17 का वायलेशन है जो अनटचेबिलिटी की बात करता है, राइट टू लाइफ का वायलेशन है, और आर्टिकल 19 लाइवलीहुड को आप मुतासर कर रहे हैं। भाई, आप क्यों बताना चाह रहे हैं कि बंडी पर आम बेचने वाला फैज है या किशन है? आप क्यों ये बताना चाह रहे हैं कि ढाबे पर जिसकी दुकान है वो मुसलमान की, हिंदू की है? तो इससे आप अब इनके इस ऑर्डर के बाद से वहां पर आप देखेंगे मुजफ्फरनगर जो ढाबे हैं वहां से तमाम जो मुस्लिम एम्प्लॉइज है, मुलाजिम है, उनको निकाल दिया गया है। उनसे कहा गया है कि आप लोग बाद में आइए, मत आइए, प्रशासन ने हमको ये कहा कि मुसलमानों को मत रखिए। तो ये संविधान के पूरा फंडामेंटल राइट्स के खिलाफ ये काम कर रहे हैं, डिस्क्रिमिनेशन है और नफरत की मिसाल है ये।
The Chief Minister's office in Uttar Pradesh stated that the decision was made to uphold the purity of the faith for the Kanwar pilgrims. Additionally, the CMO mentioned that action will be taken against those selling products with Halal certification along the route. Uttarakhand has also followed this suit, and Halal Police has released an order directing all eateries along Kanwar Yatra route to display their names. Let me tell you, there are areas of pilgrim where non-vegetarian food is not allowed. That's pretty okay. In Haridwar, it's not available, but that's pretty okay. But then this order is about a community. The BJP defended the order, explaining that it aims to identify establishments selling non-vegetarian food under Hindu deity names to prevent misleading pilgrims and to ensure social harmony. Let me play out a bite of Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi and then the bite of KC Tyagi, who is in alliance with Bharatiya Janata Party, his party, and then I will open the debate as to what are the issues.
आज जो है उत्तर प्रदेश की सरकार ने इस बारे में स्पष्ट किया है कि जो कांवड़ यात्री हैं उनकी श्रद्धा, उनकी सुरक्षा, उनकी शुचिता के सम्मान की दृष्टि से ये फैसला हुआ है। इस पर किसी तरह का कम्युनल कलर चढ़ाने की कोशिश नहीं होनी चाहिए और कोई किसी को भी आप कम्युनल कन्फ्यूज़न क्रिएट करने की कोशिश नहीं होनी चाहिए। कहीं नहीं लिखा हुआ है कि आप इसमें हिंदू नाम लिखेगा, मुसलमान नहीं लिखेगा, सिख नहीं लिखेगा। इस पर आप क्यों हिंदू मुस्लिम करके और इस तरह का और माहौल को ख़राब करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं? ये ठीक नहीं है।
इससे बड़ी कांवड़ यात्रा बिहार में निकलती है, वहाँ इस तरह का कोई आदेश नहीं है। और फिर प्रधानमंत्री जी की जो व्याख्या है भारतीय समाज के बारे में, एनडीए के बारे में, सबका साथ, सबका विकास और सबका विश्वास, ये लगाए गए प्रतिबंध इस नियम के विरुद्ध है।
I am joined by journalist Ajit Jha, KV Prasad, my colleague Brijesh Pandey in studio. Now there are three fundamental issues. One issue, Brijesh, is whether it is constitutional or not. One. Secondly, what is the issue of a Muslim selling vegetarian food? Third, what is the issue with halal food? Kanwars are not supposed to have anything non-vegetarian. They're supposed to have vegetarian food. So if a Muslim is selling a vegetarian food like a cooked khichdi or roti, dal, chawal, or selling mangoes, what difference does it make? So I open the debate with you. How do you sum it up? Why has this been done?
I think, it is a classic case of catering to your core constituency and, and othering one community. It is nothing more than that, because there is no way by forcing people to display their religion, display their identity in such a blatant fashion and saying that this has been done to maintain the purity of the the Kanwar Yatra, which goes along a particular, which takes a particular route. I honestly don't see how a Muslim selling fruits is going to, somehow make it or somehow going to defile it in a way which hits at the purity or which defiles the purpose of the Kanwar Yatra. So I think this is more of catering to your core constituency and othering of other community, which has worked well for the party for a long time. I mean, Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi, you just heard him. He was pretty aggressive in the last 24 hours, but I think message must have reached him. That is the reason why he seems to have dialed down his aggression on the order of the government, which was promulgated, or at least order of the police force of Muzaffarnagar and Saharanpur in the last 24 to 36 hours.
Ajit, to you, I mean, so there are syncretic parts of the Indian tradition where Muslims have also participated, non-Hindu communities have also participated. So first comment from you, how do you see this order?
I sort of smell apartheid in this policy. I mean, how can you do this? It's a clear violation of our constitutional freedoms guaranteed under Article 19(1)(g), right to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade or business. It completely violates that. It also touches upon Article 17, which is untouchability, and Article 21, that no person, the right to livelihood, for example, is directly hit. And the thing is, it's not only Muslim versus Hindu. Remember, in large parts of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, in the Hindi heartland, in fact, all over the country, we have untouchability still practiced in far-fetched villages against Dalits, against other communities. So the moment you put your name, suppose Ajit Paswan, immediately the Kamadiyas will not want to come and buy fruits from there. So this whole forcing people to put their identity on their businesses is, I think, pure violation of constitutional provisions. And of course, it caters to this BJP's entire, it violates Prime Minister's point of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. At the same time, it sort of caters to its own electoral vote banks. And now that we know in 10 assembly seats in UP elections are coming up, this entire thing starts a new kind of, communalism, sectarianism. I sort of find it reprehensible, this order by the administration.
But Ajit, there is also one thing which I'll come back to you. KV, your opening comments on this order, how do you see it? Can this matter be taken to the court? KV?
Well, that of course people can challenge it, there's no doubt about it, but who is going to challenge it? That's important, number one. I, for one, would like to understand what is it that, because we heard the argument coming from the administration side that is social harmony, or they want to make it sure, but has there been recorded instances that this was a widespread kind of an issue? Because Kanwar Yatra is not new, it's been on for last so many years, probably in the last decade and a half it has grown in size and numbers as people have faith to travel. And you and I stay in the Kanwar Yatra route, so we understand the kind of... But my thing is, on what basis did the administration issue that? Has there been recorded instances for them to say it's going to be widespread? So as a matter of precaution, but otherwise, I would rather go with both what Brajesh and Naveed said, that this is this looks like discriminatory in person.
Discriminatory. Brajesh, the second question, it's about the display of halal food. Halal food, and this is a question for all my panelists. Halal food is primarily about what you can eat, what you cannot eat, and primarily in the context of meat. You have vegetarian halal or not, but it does not apply to our Hindu sensibility. And there is nothing called one Hindu sensibility. It is very, very diverse. So, if someone is selling halal food, so obviously a Kavadia will not go there because it's non-vegetarian. He is not supposed to be there. So, why does this halal food come? The halal food basically tells you it's Islamic food, and primarily when it tells you Islamic food, it is generally in context of meat.
I think it is basically an attempt to justify what is being imposed by saying that, you cannot sell halal certified food. If they are trying to say that, look at Muslims, they follow their own culture, they follow their own religion. and they, you know, they have to, you know, the food they eat is halal or halal certified, and that is what they do. But the problem is that, you know, a mango which like fruit seller, it's like Arif Fal, which we are showing on our screen right now. I mean, how does this becomes a halal, non-halal, jhatka or whatever? I mean, a mango is a mango, whether it's sold by a Hindu, Muslim or anybody, any other religion. I think that is just a ruse to justify the kind of, the orders which you are trying to impose upon those Muslim shopkeepers, nothing more than that. And Kartike, you and I have covered, so many things. Most of these covers which are made in Uttarakhand and others are made by Muslims. If you go to Amarnath Yatra, you know, majority of the food facility and all are being done by Muslims, or at least, I mean, Muslim shops are there. So, I mean, you know, how come all of a sudden this has become such a contentious issue? I mean, has the government come up with a study which shows that, you know, that these Muslim shopkeepers, or a vast majority of Muslim shopkeepers, were found to spiking the food, or like, you know, doing something which can inflame social hatred and all? Nothing of that sort has come forward.
And then most of all, I would say, what about the syncretic traditions where Muslims have been part of a lot of Hindu customs, as you were mentioning? For example, the people who take pilgrims to Amarnath are Muslims. I mean, how do you deal with that? One. Secondly, the Sabrimala in itself is a representation of the diversity of the Indian Hindu thought, which in itself constitutes as able to absorb a concept where the God does not exist, and it's still there, the Charakas. So, Ajit, coming to you, why has halal been added? I mean to say, if person doesn't want to eat meat, they're not supposed to eat meat. So, why will he go to a halal shop? Obviously, if it's a halal shop, he's not going to go there. And anyone can say that it's a halal shop.
Okay, so in that case, the administration could have asked the shop owners, like they do sometimes in the US, where you see halal food. You know, Jews, for example, eat halal food. So they can name that, but you can't go around saying, now you display your entire personal identification on the shop. That, I think, is carrying the entire issue too far. Secondly, on the issue of meat itself, Kartike, I am a Maithil Brahmin. My great-grandfathers have been eating mutton and fish for time immemorial. So are Bengali Brahmins, so are Maithil Brahmins, so
Kashmiri
are Kashmiri Pandits. Kashmiri Pandits, that's what I was going to point out. Uriya Brahmins, all over eastern India, Akhamiya Brahmins, all of them eat. So this, first of all, one should not make a distinction, but even if one were to say, okay, Kanwariyas like belong to a certain sect, they believe in vegetarianism, fine, say you cannot have non-vegetarian shops on that outlet. But to force people to identify themselves in front of their shop, that I think is a constitutional violation. Yes, I think someone should take them to court. And this is absolutely, in today's world, it smacks of apartheid, according to me.
KV, during the election, the Prime Minister categorically said, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. And in this context, it's a clear case of othering, whereby a person has to display his identity. Do you recall any such incident which has happened, which is a major social function like this, or a procession? Order of this nature has been passed, though the couple of leaders are saying that in eastern UP, in some of the districts, this order has been used. This is being said.
Well, I don't remember, at least on this particular yatra, because as I said, we all live in the area where the Kanwar Yatra passes. And in fact, the other side of it is, we've seen a lot of voluntary organizations come forward and set up tents for the benefit of these covered yatris, serve them food, also sometimes give them refreshments. So these kind of arrangements are already there. And adding this kind of the particular order which talks of, declare who you are, what are you selling. So I think this doesn't really appeal very much, number one. And I don't remember an order of this nature. Probably the one you're referring to, Eastern UP, I am not aware of it, please.
And before I take this to the political level, this is happening in midst of the 10 by-elections which are going to take place, in meetings in which people have taken on Yogi Adityanath. Is Yogi Adityanath taking a position? hardening his stand both politically and socially? Do you think a sort of a larger political strategy?
Well, absolutely, and that is the reason I started by saying that this is more this is seen more as a catering to your core constituency. Basically, you want to send out a message that whether electoral debacle or not, or whatever people talk about, that the fact that you were doing Hindu Muslim has not yielded much seat for you. I mean, there is no deviation from the hardline Hindutva stand which they have taken. And that seems to be the stand. Otherwise, what was the reason for the government to go ahead and do this without any, I mean, you have to have some sort of a case study to come out and
actually, if you ask me, I am stunned that someone has to actually display his name because of his religion. And what is he writing? He writes his name and Soheb Phal. I mean, so most of the people you buy these fruits from are Muslims. Who work on your ACs are Muslims. They are professions associated with communities.
No, it's a clear case of othering. There's nothing more than that. That is why I said, it's a clear case of othering. You are trying to send a message that boss, come what may, we are there to protect you, your identity. Majority of these cowards also belong to the, the OBC, SC, ST community. It's not like, it caters, and this also caters to the core area, core vote bank, which the BJP has been going after ever since Prime Minister Narendra Modi came. The Yadav minus OBC faction, which has reaped them rich dividend, making them an unassailable political force.
Ajit, what sort of signal will this decision send to the world outside? India is now not a country of 1950s and 60s. It says that we are a global economy. We have an economy of a size. We want to be there, out there. What sort of signal does it send globally? You have worked all across the world, from the West Coast to Europe.
Absolutely. It's actually shocking, because the Prime Minister always goes abroad, always talks about Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, and given that India is supposed to be the most democratic country, the most inclusive, civilization. In fact, we have been accommodating people which other countries have been rejecting all around the world, including in Middle East. Right? We have the largest Parsi community which came from the Middle East. We have had such a great civilization in that sense. And this entire Uttar Pradesh, one of you talked about it, the Ganga Yamuni culture, the composite culture, which, brought about one of the most what one would say richest cultures of India. And from there you go back to such a what I would call a primitive kind of attempt at identifying people, violation of their constitutional rights, and then doing it. What do? You after all, look at our trade with the entire world. The number one trade with the entire world is between India and GCC. It's much more than our trade with India and the US. Much more than even India and China.
It's like this identification of the minorities have taken place in countries like Taliban, where they ask Hindus and Sikhs to put a ban. And I really don't want to give examples of the war-torn Europe and the bans which other communities had to wear. I mean, there are no bans here, but at least people have to tell them who they are. And I don't think under Indian one constitution and the largest syncretic traditions of India, such naming has ever happened, where the people have to display their names if they want to sell something, because it's a right of choice. So you are assuming that someone is just trying to disturb the yatris.
But someone is trying to disturb the yatris also, and they see, that is what I was saying right from the word go.
That can be just an individual crime.
You have to, there will be an individual crime, and you have to show or tell people that, that this is the reason why we have taken this decision, that we have found that, out of 100 Muslim eateries, 60 tried to, spike the food or like do something with the food, and that is the resultant of which we don't want to create a law and order. That I would still try to understand or wrap my head around it and say, okay, I mean, you don't want to disturb the law and order situation or create a communal tension. But the fact of the matter is that the government has not done any such thing. And politically it can boomerang also, Karthike, because now you have to also understand that the central government, the BJP is not forming government on its own. And already we have seen, 3 allies have voiced their concern. JDU has voiced their concern, LJP has voiced their concern, and RLD has voiced their concern. They have made it very clear that we do not support what is going on. KC Tyagi, we played the bite of KC Tyagi. We said that a bigger Kanwar Yatra takes place in Bihar, but nothing of that sort has happened. So
Absolutely.
I think it's also going to land BJP in some sort of allied trouble.
Absolutely, because lot of things were justified, lot of things were debated, but I think somewhere on various other policies in 2019, 2014, when the BJP government came into being, but I think this somewhere crosses the Lakshman Rekha. I would say this somewhere crosses the Lakshman Rekha. So this was our on-point debate number 1, but do not go away, because when we will come back, there's a special interview on Manipur, which is waiting for you, which is Bimol Akoijam with me, straight on Manipur.